hello, hello. How's the volume? I feel like it's a little loud. So quiet. Maybe this is just too loud. There we go. All right. I've got a couple lined up. Hey, squeakers. You can always watch on your phone. I watch Twitch on my phone sometimes. I've been watching Minecraft streams all morning. Hanging out. How's everybody doing? Did you get for everybody who plays Minecraft? You can get a bunch of free capes right now. You can't use them. You can use one of them in Java right now. The other two are only on Bedrock, but they will be available on Java later. So claim them while you can. You can claim one for Twitch, one for TikTok. You have to watch a stream for 15 minutes. It can be anybody's stream. A bunch of the hermits are streaming right now. But I would like if you watch this video. I will be playing Minecraft on Tuesday, so you could claim them watching my stream if you like. I'm just gonna, yeah. I think we've got some people. So we're gonna start with James today rather than Lily, because I have been waist deep in Lily for the past few days because I'm making a new video. A video that's been very painful for me, but I think it's worth making. But I liked James Somerton when I watched him. So, but he was always like background noise. I never really like processed exactly what I was listening to. So, yeah. All right. I think we get started, yeah? Whoa, different view, same window. All right, so I'm using the Internet Archive to watch James Somerton's videos. Ooh, my audio just messed up there for a second. My cable's still a little wonky, so forgive me. In any case, you can find these videos very easily by searching James Somerton Internet Archive, and you get basically his whole body of works. So the first one that I'm going to watch is, I believe, his latest one. It maybe. This actually might be old. Anyway, yeah. So we're gonna get started. Like I said, James is slightly more capable than Lily. I haven't watched this video though. And I think this might be old. Yeah, no, this one's from 2023. Yeah, so I think this is his newest one. The last one he made. Maybe. Well, I'm trying to figure out the dating. Okay. No, I see. Okay, so 2013, November 20th. So this is his oldest, I believe. It's from his series called The Geek Theory. It was his first episode. So we're gonna go ahead and give that a watch just to see what it was like. his really old stuff. Ooh, is it gonna load for me? Maybe I have to refresh his page because it has been kind of sitting there for a while.
The Marvel Cinematic Universe
There
has
we
been
go.
an incredibly interesting experiment by Disney and Marvel Studios. It's creating new interest in the comics, has almost single handedly turned superhero movies into Hollywood's new giant cash cow, and it's expanding. The cinematic universe is spilling over onto TV with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Netflix, with the recently announced string of mini.
Reminder again that this was made in 2013, so the MCU looked very different at this time. We did not have Disney Plus. Disney was releasing a lot of their stuff on Netflix.
Series they plan on producing. And that's great. I wasn't even a big fan of Marvel before the movies started coming out, and now I read multiple Marvel books each month. I used to only read Batman, but I feel like they're squandering their potential. Marvel's been doing great, but they have had a few missteps. Nothing big enough to really draw attention, but they've had a few, such as Thor. Marvel decided on making a Thor movie because, at the time, he was one of the few semi major characters they still held the rights to. They didn't own Spider Man, and
Wasn't the Thor movie pretty successful when it came out? I remember going to see it. I think it was one of the few Marvel movies that I saw in theaters with my friends.
they didn't own the X Men. In fact, the only big name they held the rights to was the Hulk. A year or two later, of course, an Iron Man would be one of the best known superheroes on the planet, thanks in no small part to Robert Downey Jr. But when they started this cinematic universe journey, they didn't have a lot to pick from. If they made a Thor movie, it could work toward an Avengers movie, so they made it, and it worked out pretty well. But it was no blockbuster to say the least. It did well, grossing about $480 million worldwide, but compared to the vast majority of superhero movies coming out at the time and since, that's a pretty paltry number.
Okay, so something interesting I want to note here is that James Somerton's a business major. And I think so far in this video that's very clear because he hasn't actually really gone into film analysis at all. Um, he's mostly talking about like facts rather than subjective analysis. Um, so these are things that he could Google, you know what I mean? Like he wouldn't have to actually form an opinion. He could just look at the math and be like, yes, this made this much money. It was a blockbuster. It wasn't a blockbuster. It's all been very factual so far. I think that's interesting.
The sequel, Thor the Dark World, has recently been released and is on track to do more or less the same at the box office. But it had a bigger budget. Captain America actually made less than Thor, but it
Hold on, I'm curious. Is James Somerton from Newfoundland originally? I just need to check.
received
All right. Sorry about that. Um, yeah, I was hoping that I could get away with. Okay, let's not do 1 second. Okay, that should be all fixed. Sorry about that. Bit of a potato microphone. This should be fixed. I'm hoping next weekend, but if not, it'll be fixed by Monday. Next Monday, not this Monday. Um, so a bit of a potato mic moment. Sorry about that. All right. But yeah, I was just curious because hold on, let me see if I can play it again. The back surface. The back surface. That was very. I'm just curious from Newfoundland. If my fan could. Uh, it's hard to look up stuff on him because it's all. Yeah. I'm looking at the Wikipedia trivia. He is gay. Citation needed. Anyway, but yeah, definitely Newfoundlander right there. And yet, Guardians of the Galaxy is one of the most beloved Marvel properties now, in hindsight, but he couldn't have known that at the time. Still, he's not actually, again, he's not actually like talking about the movies. He's just like describing facts. But he was a business major, so that makes sense. Mm, and again, he's not talking about the movies. He's just stating how much money they made. Are you kidding? I'm so sorry. Um, no, it's not your fault, but thank you for telling me. You, let me see.
Minority in
There we go. I'm wondering when did it stop playing? The thing is that he hasn't actually said anything interesting. He's just said like, "Oh, well, nobody can hold a torch to Iron Man because Iron Man made this much money and like this movie made this much money." And he's not actually really spoken about the movies.
probably in
Um,
every
this review is from 2013, by the way, so that's why it's so dated.
fan. People relate to the X-Men because they appeal to the minority in us all, the put upon, the marginalized.
Have you tried not being a mutant?
Can
That
you
was one
relate
of
to
my favorite
Thor,
scenes.
a literal god? But like I said, Marvel and Disney aren't allowed to make Spider-Man or X-Men movies, even though they would probably love to get their hands back on their most popular and relatable characters.
They have them
You better
now.
believe Sony and Fox are not going to give up their grip on those franchises. So what can Marvel do? They need to start another franchise with a hero that people can relate to. Personally, I hope this turns out to be the Young Avengers series, but that's probably just a pipe dream and not even feasible until Phase 4 at the very earliest, probably Phase 5. But they really do need to introduce some characters that people can relate to. Captain America and Thor are fun, but not really relatable. There are so many amazing characters in Marvel who could easily support their own movie and could grab the audiences like Iron Man has, but they're not doing anything with them. As a movie fan and a superhero fan, I really want Marvel to succeed in this, but I fear they might be going a little too far out for main.
You're not okay. So it's interesting to me because he admitted earlier in the video that he's never read Marvel before the MCU. So that's weird, dude.
Stream audiences to follow. Let me know what you think. Do you think Marvel is squandering an opportunity, or do you think they're doing it all just right? Let me know in the comments below.
Yeah, that's really interesting. He's like, "Oh yeah, I haven't really read comics until the MCU. But I'm a big comic book fan." Okay. Interesting. Okay, so I don't know if I want to watch the DC Cinematic Black Hole. That's from 2013 as well, and there wasn't really a DCU at that time. So I don't know how useful that would even be. Um, so already, this was 2013. He was jumping on a trend. So he was focusing on Marvel. All right. And then he kind of pivots to gay content to see if he can carve out a niche. If this list thing would be Gay Geek Theory video the Stonewall film effect. I have no idea what this is going to be about, uh, but this is when
Hello,
he's.
everyone. My name is James, and welcome to
Uh,
Gay Geek Theory. Today, I would like to talk.
so he rebranded from Geek Theory to Gay Geek Theory in 2017. Oh, so he did. Okay. So he did two videos in 2013, then looks like one, three, four, five, six, seven, three, four, five, six, seven, three, four, five, six, seven. Had to count on my fingers like a fool. Then he did five videos in 2014, and then he didn't make anything until 2017, where he rebranded as the Gay Geek Theory. Um, okay, interesting.
Talk about something that I'm calling the Stonewall effect, or maybe the Stonewall film effect. As someone who has gone to film school, worked in the film industry, and then also gotten a business degree and worked in marketing, I feel like I have a
James, did you go to? What film school did you go to? That's interesting. Okay. Because he's from Halifax. So there's two options that he could have done in 2017. He could have gone to a business school that did film, um, which is the one that I went to. I think it was under a different name at that point. Um, or he could have gone to NSCC. So that's interesting.
Pretty good view of the film industry from, from a distance, a very far distance, like surface of the moon on October 31st distance. Hollywood has always had a love-hate relationship with the LGBT community. Though we may dominate certain sections of the behind-the-scenes world, gay men, drag queens, and lesbians were only peppered throughout early cinema. Not really in major roles, but we were visible, like Marlene Dietrich in Morocco. This gender-bending bisexual scene turned a lot of heads when the film came out in 1930. The characters were usually played for laughs, but we were still represented. We were there, on the big screen, and you could tell. It wasn't coded or subtle. Those characters were gay. Gay, 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 gay. And really, moviegoers didn't seem to mind. Well, most moviegoers, anyway. You see, movies were getting
2017, wasn't that the year after gay marriage was legalized in the States? So it's interesting that he pivoted to gay geek theory then. Interesting.
crazy. Or at least that's what the religious right thought. Showing violence, sex, and questionable moral behavior were an easy way to get people talking about a movie and then getting their butts in theater seats. But a lot of Catholic and Protestant groups just weren't having it, and through a series of
Oh,
threats that have had
2015.
entire books
Sorry.
written about them, they forced the film industry as a whole to start self censoring, lest they become chained to the moral hem of those opinionated Christians. And so the Hays Code was introduced, named after William Hays, doesn't he look like a happy fella, to begin censoring movies. Violence could no longer be shown without the perpetrator getting his comeuppance somehow. Death, jail, and repenting to God were all accepted outcomes. Nudity was a big no-no. There was no reasoning with them on that front. And sexuality could only be shown between married or committed couples. Again, unless you showed those horn dogs being punished for their nasty sex in some way. Basically, all the fun was taken out of the movies. This was when mobster movies started to really take off, because you could show all the violence you wanted, but since the main characters
Okay, I'm going to talk about a small pet peeve that I have. And that's how people use the term video essay. An essay needs to have like a statement. You need to be convincing us of something. Um, I'm guessing that his like statement, like his thesis statement, is what is the thing is that it's not really a statement, it's more of a question. Like, what is the Stonewall film effect that he identifies and coined and named, I suppose. Actually, hold on. Hold on. Let's go a little adventure. Let's see. Hold on. I'm curious if this. Okay. I was just wondering if maybe it was mentioned before. And he took that as well. Let's keep watching.
probably died in the end, it was okay. Oh, and homosexuality was outright banned in the beginning. Shocker, I know. But clever writers and directors figured out ways to get gay characters in the movies again, just in a more coded, veiled way. Even movies as big as Ben-Hur, the 1959 version written by gay writer Gore Vidal, included some homoerotic subtext. though it was inserted without the knowledge of lead actor Charlton Heston, who would say it didn't exist until the day he died. And for the most part, things basically stayed that way until the Hays Code started falling apart in the
Calamity
1960s.
Jane.
Movies like The Children's Hour, The Producers, and Midnight Cowboy started appearing. Midnight Cowboy even won Best Picture despite its X rating from the MPAA, which it got for a gay blowjob scene. Then in 1970 came The Boys in the Band, which was the first big Hollywood movie that featured an all gay cast of all gay characters. It was a pretty big
Okay.
deal at the time.
So this is 4 years after that initial video that we watched. And I am again noticing that he's not analyzing the films themselves. Um, and I've got lockjaw apparently. That's better. Um, yeah, so he's not really, again, he's not analyzing the films themselves, and this is a few years later. So that's interesting. How old is James? This isn't true, by the way. He posted whole. So he's 35, so he's a few years older than I am. I think a lot of video essayists like to just use movies or shows as framing devices for what they actually wanted to talk about. Yeah, maybe. Um, but again, I'm not really sure what he's trying to say. Like the part, it is important to gather information, um, but the important part of an essay is not the bibliography, you know? And I'm getting that sense here.
It would be a pretty big deal today. We showed up here and there throughout the 1970s and early 80s, but nothing of note. The gay panic kicked in about halfway through the 80s when AIDS was known as the gay cancer, and gays became Hollywood's best new villains. We were psychotic, evil, bloodthirsty, a whole group of Jeffrey Dahmers, each and every one of us. Or we were dying of AIDS. So we were either dying or killing. What a great decade the 80s were. But then Bill Clinton was elected president after 12 long years of Republican rule in the White House, and Hollywood started to ease up on us gays a little bit. Other than Silence of the Lambs, which the gays were not happy about, I might make a whole other video on that. Suffice to say, we bitched about nothing. The 1990s gave us some pretty solid gay movies. Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, Tu Wong Fu, Thank You for Everything, Julie Newmar, The Birdcage, Philadelphia, My Own Private Idaho. 1997 alone gave us Wild, Kiss Me Guido, In and Out, and gay inclusive films like As Good as It Gets, Boogie Nights, and The Full Monty. In 1999, we got The Talented Mr. Ripley, Boys Don't Cry, and Cruel Intentions. I know, not exactly happy portrayals of gay characters, but representation nonetheless. Things were looking up, and with the dawn of the new
Hmm.
millennium, Queer as Folk became one of the most talked about and eventually one of the most profitable TV shows in television history. By the end of its run, Queer as Folk actually had to add an extra 15 minutes onto its hour because so many people wanted to buy commercials. That doesn't even happen now. Then came the Bush administration, and gay representation, at least from mainstream Hollywood studios, seemed to dry up. Sure, we got The Hours, which didn't turn a profit, and some independent fare like Mambo Italiano and Monster, again, not exactly a positive portrayal. And I guess you could argue that Chicago is pretty gay, and
I think I can see why, when I used to watch James, that why I watched him. It's because he's presenting information. Um, and he's presenting it in a fairly safe way. At least early on, he played it safe, and he was good to put on in the background, and I could see why.
that Frodo and Sam might have had something going on the down low, but you'd be reaching. For the first few years, the closest thing to a gay movie that any major Hollywood studio put out was X Men 2. Gay director Bryan Singer slathered the mutant as gay metaphor all over that movie. But just like The Lord of the Rings in Chicago, it's subtext. And we're looking for plain, simple text here. Then along came 2005. I like to think of 2005 as a test case for queer cinema. First up, Rent, a rock opera about straights, gays, and bisexuals living and singing together in AIDS infested early 90s New York City. Cost $40 million to produce and made $31 million at the worldwide box.
Rent was also already a very popular musical at the time. It was on Broadway. I think it went off Broadway 2 years after the movie was made. Um,
Office. Here's some box office info you may not actually know. Theaters take about half of the money that a movie makes. So a movie needs to
Again, maybe he's going somewhere with this, but he's focusing on box office sales rather than the quality of the movie
make
or even audience reception or criticisms.
twice as much as its budget in order for the studio to break even. And that's not even counting the cost of advertising the movie. So when you look at it that way, Rent was an even bigger bomb. Next, we have Capote. $7 million production budget with a worldwide box office of just under 50 million. Okay, now we're talking. Nothing to write home about, but at least it turned a profit. Hollywood is a business after all, and they love making money. Finally, we have Brokeback Mountain,
Oh
a movie
dear.
people are still angry about not winning Best Picture at the Oscars. This movie is sometimes credited as being the moment that a lot of Americans realize that gay people can actually love each other and it's not just about sex. Made for $14 million, it brought in $178 million at the worldwide box office. Those are the kinds of numbers that Hollywood likes to see. But here's the thing. Looking at 2005 from a business standpoint, Brokeback Mountain is the outlier. Capote did well, yes, but
Yeah, so again, reiterating, he's coming at this from like a business major, um not really anything with regards to film analysis.
not anywhere beyond what other movies of its ilk were doing at the time or now, meaning Oscar bait movies. And of course, Rent was a total bomb. So Brokeback Mountain was breaking the rule that gay movies don't make money. So, what would happen? Well, Hollywood would test the gay community. In 2006, we got Running with Scissors. Based on the best selling book of the same name, producers were hoping for a big return. Sadly, it was a terribly made movie and it bombed. Producers and executives didn't see a bad movie that lost money, though. They saw a gay movie that lost money. In
As they
2009, the
do.
book won 2 Oscars, but failed to turn a profit. So now that we've got some context, let me get to the reason why I call this the Stonewall effect, or the Stonewall film effect. The next time Hollywood as a studio system put real faith behind a gay movie was 2015, 10 years after Brokeback Mountain. Directed by Roland Emmerich, the movie did what every historical movie.
Hey, how come we haven't talked about But I'm a Cheerleader? When was that released? No, come on, are you kidding me? Alright. But I'm a Cheerleader. Okay, that was released in 2000. So that kind of like nixes his theory about how there was this, you know, wasn't. We'll talk about that later. How gay movies weren't being made during the Bush administration. Also, like I, f- I feel like even though they're not technically, even though they're not technically movies and they're TV shows, I feel like we are remiss not to mention um Ellen DeGeneres and RuPaul, who were pretty big gay celebrities in America in the 90s and early 2000s, even before without Drag Race. Um and Ellen, like her talk show, there was the Ellen DeGeneres show, um like the sitcom, and RuPaul had was doing like everything. So he's like sort of like also like making this narrative about gay acceptance that isn't like on TV that isn't quite accurate. And maybe it's, yeah. Like again, he's talking specifically about films, I suppose, and where I'm mentioning TV, but he also brought up Queer as Folk, but he didn't bring up Will and Grace or the L Word. Um, so it feels like his research is very incomplete. I would say that the things that I just mentioned are very important to the conversation. Um, but anyway.
He has done and whitewashed the story. It wasn't drag queens, gay, and transgender people of color who started the fight for gay rights. It was a pretty blonde boy from Kansas or Nebraska, one of the flat states. Because of this, there was a fierce campaign against the movie online. Boycotts were planned, and what Hollywood hoped would turn into the first gay blockbuster turned into a massive tax write off, making only $187,000 worldwide. Yeah, missing a few zeros there, guys. So, what is the Stonewall film effect? It's when a gay movie fails because of a reason other than being about gay people. Hollywood executives, however, don't see that. They see a gay movie that lost money. They
Okay.
see a gay movie being protested. Gays boycotted Silence of the Lambs in 1991, but it made $272 million. So it wasn't the boycott that made Stonewall fail. It was because it was about gay people. Audiences obviously don't want gay movies. Maybe a supporting character in a cheap rom-com or chick flick here and there, but no lead roles. You see, every gay movie that fails because it's a gay movie. But every gay movie that succeeds for a different reason. Case in point, The Birdcage starred Robin Williams at his prime. Philadelphia starred Tom Hanks, won him an Oscar. Brokeback Mountain had two of the hottest actors in Hollywood, and happened right after George W. Bush started his campaign against gay marriage, so there was a little sympathy. Now, I'm not saying these are the reasons that these movies succeeded, but this is what Hollywood executives tell themselves. So, where does that leave us? Well, as a gay man who would actually like to see some major gay characters in movies, I'm at an impasse. From a business standpoint, my view is that we, meaning the LGBT community, should go out and see every movie that features LGBT characters. Whether they're gay men, lesbians, bisexuals, or transgender people, see them all. Every one of them, in theaters, and buy the Blu-ray. No matter how terrible they are. But, James, that means
That goes to show
Hollywood will
you how
just
old
keep
that
making
is.
bad gay movies. Ah, that's the counter argument. And, if we support movies like Stonewall, which whitewash and ciswash history, Hollywood will just keep making movies like that. Fair argument, and history kind of backs you up, to a point. For decades, African Americans were portrayed in two ways in movies: dangerous criminals or slaves. That was it. It's like the scary butch dyke gay best friend or depressed transgender person stereotypes the LGBT community hates. But eventually you
Oh
got the
boy.
blaxploitation movement in the 1970s, which, despite its name sounding kind of negative, actually went a long way in introducing audiences to strong black characters. Shaft and Foxy Brown, for instance. Were they great movies? Not always. Sure, we look back and cringe at some of them now, but they laid the groundwork for movies to star Eddie Murphy and Denzel Washington in the 1990s, and make a lot of money doing it. And then that laid the groundwork for more overtly black movies like the Medea series in the 2000s and the 2010s.
What is with this guy and just skipping entire swaths of like film history? Um, Again, there's some overlap with television shows here. Um, but he's just like missing out on things like Star Trek, for example, which made like a pretty big leap in terms of black characters. We're missing out on things like um, what's it called? The one with Archie Bunker. It's from What show is he from? All in the Family. All in the Family. All in the Family, and then the Jeffersons, and there was different strokes and everything. Like, we're not touching on like it's very weird what he focuses on and what he ignores. I'll say that.
which then laid the groundwork for Black Panther, a $200 million superhero movie with an almost all black cast
Hold on, hold
taking
on,
place
hold
in
on.
a tech then laid the and make a lot of money doing it. And then that laid the groundwork for more overtly black movies like the Medea series in the 2000s and the 2010s, which then laid the groundwork for Black Panther,
We're going from Medea to Black Panther. That's a big freaking leap, my guy. But all right.
a $200 million superhero movie with an almost all black cast taking place in a technologically superior African nation. No step and fetch it's here. Our main character, a superhero, is a king. So where's our gay superhero? They do exist. Marvel's Wiccan and Hulkling, DC's Midnighter and Apollo. So where are they? Well, they remain relegated to the pages of limited yet popular comic book runs because we, meaning the LGBT community, haven't shown the Hollywood executives that we're willing to spend our money on gay movies. We need to deal with the bad gay movies like Running with Scissors, Rent, and yes, maybe even Stonewall. Line up around the block to see them, support them, and put our hard earned dollars into the bloated wallets of Hollywood executives. Because when they see bad gay movies succeeding, they'll start buying up those good gay movies whose screenplays get ignored.
I feel like this is very short-sighted as well. Like it's okay if it's okay if they're racist and transphobic. They're gay. Go see them because just because. And I'm glad we didn't get that go that route and that we are starting to get more gay representation despite us not doing what he said here, but
In 2016, Moonlight, a gay and black movie, was made for $1.5 million. People heard it was good, we heard it was good, and we went. It made $65 million worldwide. For a movie about a gay black man, that's pretty good. I'd say it's exceptional, actually, if you look at the box office performance of other movies like that. So we've got one Oscar winning box office hit on our hands. First time since Brokeback Mountain. 10 years ago. Over 10 years ago. So what are we going to do now? This time, are we going to ignore the next LGBT inclusive movie because it wasn't made exactly like we wanted it to be? Or are we going to swallow our here and queer pride and support LGBT cinema even when it's not great? Because remember, it took a lot of slave movies and terrible comedies to get to Black Panther. So let's show Hollywood we mean business. The next time an LGBT inclusive movie
hmm.
hits a theater near you, go. Take Friends, see it twice, even if you hate it. Because if it makes money, we might just get a gay superhero movie in the next few years. Or a Stonewall movie that actually tells the truth. If gays have shown anything, it's that we're good at forcing otherwise slow processes to speed up. Change in Hollywood can make change in Washington look damn near supersonic unless there's money involved. You want gay movies? You want lesbian heroes, bisexual leading men, a transgender superhero? Let's put our money where our mouths are and support gay cinema, even the bad ones. You've got to start somewhere, and after a century of cinema, we're still at the starting gate. So, what do you guys think? I'd love to hear your opinions on this, so leave them in the comments below, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.
All right. So, I'm kind of sharing my thoughts as you watch that. Um, and this is another problem of, again, I guess he made a point at the end was it was like a call to action to go see gay movies. Um, but I can't say that I found it very inspiring. And maybe it's because I know that we got there and that we're getting there and we are making progress without just. Ex- I think now we have a more nuanced take of like just because something is gay doesn't mean it's worth watching. Um, like we've kind of graduated past this idea that like, oh yeah, you should go watch this because it's gay, like the suggestion that people make. Now, if I scroll, his stuff is real long. Not Gaiman. Touching my Neil Gaiman. Gay horror manga you should be reading. Okay. Vampires and the gays that love them. Ooh, these are old. Or not old, these are long. Ethan Break from Marvels. Great author with amazing queer characters. Why are these only like 30 seconds? That's not good. Not killing stalking. Oh, how is there only 8 seconds? What happened? Oh, this is my fucking Roman Empire. Oh my god, the Barbie to Evangelion pipeline? What are you talking about? Okay. Hit me with it, James. I'll fucking kill you. Has Lily ever done a video on Evangelion? No, she won't. She wouldn't touch Evangelion. It's too anime. We not gonna load today? Hold on a second. 71. Yeah, Internet Archive is a bit of a wonky website. Let's try this again. I'm very interested in this video. You better load. If not, we'll go watch some Lily videos. Also, I'm not doing art today. I'm just chatting. Are you kidding? Internet Archive, come on. Alright. Let's watch some Lily videos. Ooh. I feel like Lily's not the person to talk about this.
For the longest time, something always bothered me about The Princess and the Frog. Something always rubbed me the wrong way about it. I could never really decipher what it was, and it always confused me. Was it the lack of realism? Well, it can't be. I'm not a 14-year-old.
Oh. It started replaying. Oh, of course she does. Let's keep watching.
Anymore. Was it the fact that it's padded like a mensurating fire hose? Maybe that could be it. Is it the unnecessary villain? Well, that's possible. I certainly have seen that before. But then after 3 years, an entire book, a crowdfunded lesson on character work, several blorbos, and an avalanche of harassment once the stalker smelled vulnerability, I finally figured it out. The main character is being unnecessarily lectured for just living her fucking life. So The Princess and the Frog is a film I have complicated feelings about. On the one hand, it has one of my favorite Disney princesses out there, but on the other hand, her story is kneecapped by a deeply misogynistic central theme. It has one of the most beautiful romances of any Disney film, but that's in spite of the story and not because of it. It has one of the most enjoyable villains Disney's ever made, who is completely unnecessary and actively brings down the main story with his presence and overcomplicates
What do you mean, Lily?
everything. It's like Disney was constantly taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back with this one. And that wouldn't be too far off, because Princess and the Frog was coming right off the heels of a slump period for Disney animation. At the time Princess and the Frog released, it had been 11 years since Disney's last major Disney princess film. Disney had spent the late 90s and 2000s jogging in place with a really experimental Disney princess film.
Okay. I'm gonna tackle it. First of all, this is from Mulan 2, not the first Mulan.
Time Princess and the Frog released, it had been 11 years since Disney's last major Disney princess film. Disney had spent the late 90s and 2000s jogging in place with really experimental films, some of which succeeded, like The Emperor's New Groove and Lilo and Stitch, and others were home on the range. Not the best time to be an animator. But hey,
jogging in place is an interesting way to describe that era of Disney movies because I think most of them are pretty. Home on the Range, I personally liked. I know not everybody does, but I liked it. It's nostalgic for me. I like the music. I think the characters are fun. I love the designs. Um, I'm not really sure what people don't like about it, honestly, other than it being like, I don't know what people don't like about it. Maybe I'll rewatch it and try to figure that out. 'Cause I haven't watched it in a few years. But to act like Disney wasn't doing anything, like it's like she's acting like they were making a bunch of straight to video movies during this era. But anyway,
DreamWorks wasn't doing too good either. DreamWorks animators spent years pouring their
sorry.
hearts and souls to create the most beautiful and soul-capturing animation they could possibly bring to page for a fucking Bible movie, and then the animators that couldn't cut it there got sent off.
Lily, 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 Lily. I know that you're like a card carrying atheist, but this is not a Christian movie. It's a Jewish movie. But anyway,
Bring to page for a fucking Bible movie, and then the animators that couldn't cut it there got sent off to make Shrek, and it sold fucking gangbusters. Just in case anyone still thinks that the animation is the most important part of an animated movie.
so Shrek also, shut up, Lily. Shrek was actually pretty like people were pretty excited about the animation in Shrek because it was very unique and it was detailed in a way that we didn't really see before. I also, now correct me if this is true, but I think it was the first time we had like decent, realistic human 3D models in a movie. Um, that weren't like super weird and cartoony slash doll proportions. Wasn't Prince of Egypt about Passover? Yeah. 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 And then you had Joseph King of Dreams. And again, these are Jewish movies, not Christian movies. It's not a Bible movie, it's a Torah movie. I believe I'm not Jewish. I sometimes I get the books mixed up, but I believe Torah, that's what um that's what those movies are from. But anyway, Shrek was revolutionary for its time. And it's a good story. So, and the animation is pretty good and still holds up today. So stop it, Lily.
Movie, lol. So attempts to bring
It's because it's not pretty. It's because it's not conventionally attractive.
animated films back from the brink of death came about in this film, an adaptation of The Frog Prince, but filtered through a roaring 20s aesthetic and stretched out to about 12 times as long. And I think that's where Princess and the Frog flounders. Because you have a good story here, but it's buried
That's how all Disney movies work, Lily.
under the
Or all Disney princess movies work.
usual Disney tat that defined the Disney Renaissance. And in many cases, those two things are butting heads with each other. Given this was the first princess movie to be released since Mulan, it seems Disney thought the story had to be everything a Disney princess movie traditionally was during the Renaissance. So you've got an otherwise good, character-focused story about expectations and relationships and work-life balance and what it means to really love someone, but because it's a Disney princess movie, it also needs to include magic and fairy tale stuff and musical numbers and talking animals and a villain, and all those things really bog down an otherwise good story. Like, I know people love him, but the story around the Shadow Man takes so many legal twists and turns that involve marrying into money, kissing what is technically a princess to break the frog curse, but then it's too late, but then it's not because apparently the Loa are all sticklers for the rules, and that's not even getting into the swamp animals, including the one that dies rather unnecessarily, and all of them have to be characterized as well, and this script is in dire need of an editor, preferably one armed with pruning shears. So the core failing of The Princess and the Frog is that underneath all the obligations, it's a story that tries and fails to teach its characters the wrong lesson. Tiana is a workaholic breaking her back in order to open a restaurant in New Orleans, largely because it was the dream of her father who tragically died before it could ever be realized.
Sorry.
And in a rather callous turn for a Disney
Hey,
film, Tiana...
wait, what was that? What was that? Hold on. How do I seek?
underneath all the obligations, it's a story that tries and fails to teach its characters the wrong lesson. Tiana is a workaholic breaking her back in order to open a restaurant in New Orleans, largely because it was the dream of her father, who tragically died before it could ever be realized.
They are so fucking cute. Okay.
And in a rather callous turn for a Disney film, Tiana just gets absolutely bull rushed by everyone. Her friends, her boss, even her own mother devalues
Yeah, Lily, this is like the hero's journey. She has humble beginnings, you know. She has her comfortable but humble slash like slightly unpleasant life.
her efforts throughout the
This is like pretty common for Disney princesses.
entire first act. Her friends, because Tiana's always working and never takes any time off. Her boss, because he's jaded and rolls his eyes at the idea of upward social mobility. And her mother is more preoccupied with Tiana finding love because it made her father happy, and she wants the same thing for... I want some grandkids. Okay, scratch that. She had ulterior motives. She wants to have grandkids and wants her daughter to get on that. I mean,
It's not that deep, Lily.
fair enough. There's not much time left. Tiana's already 19. Yeah, okay, no, you can wait. This is all pretty typical mom stuff, especially mothers in the 1920s. But I mean, come the fuck on. How much catty bullshit are we gonna have to listen to here? So already we see the...
It's not actually about like her getting grandkids. It's that like Tiana pours everything into work, and work isn't everything. It's nice to have a job, and like as somebody that struggled with this themselves, it's great if you have a job that you love and is doing something that you always dreamed of, but it isn't the most important thing. If you're going to spend your whole life or most of your life and your youth like breaking your back to get towards something that you might get someday in terms of work, and you sacrifice your own happiness to do it, um, is it really worth it? Um, and the Princess and the Frog's answer is no, it's not. Tiana gets what she wants anyway because it's a Disney princess movie. But even if you don't have like the perfect job that you always dreamed of, doesn't mean you can't be happy. Maybe in a more mature movie, um, Tiana wouldn't have opened that restaurant, you know? Maybe she would have been a home cook or cooked for her community, um, rather than opening a fancy restaurant. I'm not saying that the way that the movie ended was bad. Um, just that, like, I think Lily is misunderstanding the point, and I think the point could have still been made even if Tiana couldn't open her restaurant. Her getting to open her restaurant isn't the point of the movie, you know?
through line for the film. Your dad didn't get his restaurant, but he had a family that he loved. But there's this subtle implication that having a family was largely what stopped him from getting his restaurant, placing a certain degree of guilt on Tiana to push even harder to get it. But the thing is, outside of working herself to no sleep, Tiana's not actually...
The thing that stopped him from being able to open a restaurant was not that he had a family, but was racism.
being an unreasonable person. She's not pushing some idea of never seeking out love and absorbing herself entirely in her career. Hell, she says it herself.
That's just gonna have to wait a while.
How long we talking about here?
This is actually Tiana being very responsible and considerate because she's not complicating things with a family when she's only 19, and that shit can wait. I actually like that side of Tiana because it's common for writers to sneer at the idea of women being in relationships because they think it's some kind of subversive take like, oh, she doesn't need a partner in her life.
Now, neither Lily nor me are black. Tiana, yes, Tiana's journey is about enjoying the road, not just waiting to get to the destination. The whole, if I just get this thing, I'll be happy. She needs to learn to enjoy the journey. Yeah. All right. So a couple things about that. The first thing, again, neither me nor Lily are black. Um, that being said, a lot of black women in media and in real life, I have had this told to me before, are expected like to work, 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 work. Um, like you don't get to be the happy romantic. You don't get to be the Disney princess. That's why Tiana was such a big deal. A lot of black girls have never seen themselves in a role like this before, um, because black girls, there's such high expectations placed on them to work and achieve and like don't grow up too fast, but like grow up fast enough and like um also if on the whole thing about um enjoying the journey, again, speaking from experience, getting something you've always wanted won't necessarily make you happy. And that's really, really hard to accept. If Tiana had gotten everything she ever wanted, but did not have anybody to share that with, would she be happy? You know, she spent all this time on that grind and she never focused on herself. You know, that might not be that's not a good thing either. But anyway,
But, like, most people don't need a partner, but they would probably like one. It's a hell of a lot more nuanced than making a character functionally aromantic just because you have a bug up your ass about romance, and then coincidentally leaving the fact that they're aromantic into a live stream. But ironically, the film is on the opposite end of that.
what is that referring to?
Coincidentally making a character functionally aromantic just because you have a bug up your ass about romance, and then coincidentally leaving the fact that they're aromantic into a live stream. But ironically, the film is on the opposite end of that
Okay,
because the
I don't
closest
know
thing
what
the
that's
film has
referring
for
to.
something to teach Tiana, it's waiting to get married. What
She's
are you,
snarking
some
about the
kind of
Owl
switch?
House.
Not a
Okay,
great
of
starting point
course.
for a film to establish your heroine is completely reasonable and then
What
besetting her
character
on all.
in the Owl House is aromantic? Sorry, I didn't really get involved in live streams and stuff. I just watched the show and enjoyed it. What character in the Owl House is aromantic? Lilith. Oh, I kind of got that vibe from her anyway. Like she clearly wasn't interested in dating anybody. But anyway. And what do you mean bug up your ass about romance? Like what? Bro, that's on the Owl House with Amity and Luz and freaking the main witch gate like River and yeah. Anyway, there's a bunch of romance in the Owl House. What are you talking about, Lily? Yeah, it wasn't the show, but the writer said it in a live stream, apparently. Yeah, but like that's like also kind of apparent from the show anyway. And there were so many queer characters and so many different kinds of romance that like why are you getting mad that one character turned out to be? Is it because you wanted to fuck that character, Lily? Like what the hell?
Sides by borderline misogynistic rhetoric and expecting the audience to be on board. Almost every character in the film hammers this point into Tiana's head constantly. I know you want to have a restaurant, but have you considered marrying far too young and pumping out kids instead? I know that was on your agenda eventually, but I think it should be your top priority.
Okay, that voice is awful and also a little bit
And I think
racist.
this is the only Disney film that does this. Usually the heroines get invested in romance either out of the blue or after eyeing a hot piece of ass, but Tiana does neither, and it's almost like she's committed some cosmic faux pas. The problem I have with this, aside from the obvious baffling misogyny, is that the story is presented as if Tiana is the one having to learn a lesson when she is ultimately vindicated. Because the two people who love her more than anything, Charlotte from the start and Naveen from the second half onward, both want Tiana to have everything she wants. The point where where Naveen falls in love with Tiana is the point where he starts trying to help her achieve her dream. He was even going to marry Charlotte on the condition that Charlotte fund Tiana's restaurant, and I'm pretty sure Tiana's pride was the only thing that stopped that from happening in the first place. Everyone in the film tells Tiana she has to give up on her restaurant, find a man, and settle down, but the moment Naveen starts to actually care for her, his only thought is,
I don't.
she should really have that restaurant. And
But that's not what they're saying. They're saying, yeah, it was 1920s in the South, like 19, like it was a different time. Like 19 was considered an adult woman at that point. But I just that's they're not saying to find a husband and settle down. They're saying to live your life and not just focus work-life balance, Lily. That's what this is about.
Charlotte, who has basically wanted to marry a prince since she was a kid, completely lets Naveen out of his deal the instant she sees just how much him and Tiana care about each other. Hell, earlier in the film, Charlotte is the catalyst to Tiana getting her restaurant when she pays her enough to actually put in the down payment.
This is it. I'm getting my restaurant.
Just look at the joy on her face. Look at that. That is a beautiful sight. More of this in all movies. I can't describe just how much this warms my heart. It's utterly delightful. And this is where my complicated feelings on the film are. The selfless love on display from both of them is the truly infectious part of the film. Naveen starts falling in love with her precisely because Tiana lights up when she talks about her passion for cooking and her dream of opening her restaurant. It's that passion that makes both of them adore her so much. Almost in spite of its bafflingly misogynistic central theme, Disney managed to write one of the most delightful romances ever put to screen because Tiana is utterly cherished by Naveen from the moment he falls in love with her, and everything he does is about selflessly trying to undo the horrible mess he's gotten her into, even if he gets nothing out of it in the end.
I will find another way to get the honor restaurant. Could have the cute little tadpole? Get the job. Maybe two, maybe three.
Ultimately, Naveen is the one who has to learn something about being less selfish
Yeah,
and spoiled,
Naveen
while
is
Tiana
amazing.
largely doesn't change at all. What I find particularly interesting about this is that it's common in het romance, especially Disney romance, for a woman to be the catalyst for a man's personal growth, but that's usually by her explicitly nurturing that side out of him like she's a surrogate mother. It's terrible, and it's awful, and it needs to die on the vine, but there's a version of this where instead of being an active player in that growth, the woman just inspires that growth by being her wonderful, delightful self and inspiring him to be a better person, even if she's unaware she's done it. And that is utterly adorable. I love that.
Naveen has pretty
it's
hair.
Perfect. It's cute. One really cool thing about the film is that it's the first time in a Disney film that the two leads have to actually come to an understanding before they fall in love, or the first time without kidnapping and slavery. Lily, what about Mulan? Well, no, because they actually end that film with Shang being asked to dinner for the first time, which is adorable, and I love them so huggy-muggy much. Isn't it quite what I'm talking about here. Lottie is a different story, as being a supporting character she's a lot less deep, but her and Tiana have been best friends since they were little, and unlike the others, Lottie isn't just supportive of Tiana's dreams, she puts her literal money where her mouth is when she overpays Tiana for a catering job. And while Tiana is just swamped with joy, seriously, this shot, utterly delightful, Lottie is almost as giddy as she is and even runs off cheering. And Lottie's been after Naveen for the entire film, but the moment Tiana confesses to loving him, she's just like... She's actually moved to tears by Tiana's confession, and though she ultimately fails to help them, it's telling just how much she loves Tiana that she just throws away her own desires for her. If anything, that would have been a much better through line for the film for Tiana, watching someone else throw their own dreams aside because she is just more important to them. There have been a lot of people suggesting Lottie is gay, and specifically gay for Tiana, and I can definitely see it, because that kind of adoration and love is fucking primal. And this is the part of the film I
That's okay. I've never heard that before.
actually really like, where Tiana is completely adored by these two people in different ways, who both ultimately give up the things they want for her. This could be the foundation for a really good movie. The thing is, I don't think it's just a hypothetical. I think it could happen. Disney in 2009 was very married to its princess tropes, but the Disney of 2023 doesn't have that problem. Since Princess and the Frog came out, Disney has been either subverting or eschewing the typical Disney brand, and they've made films that are about characters without having to brand themselves a princess movie. They've made films that just have no villains at all, like Encanto or Moana. Arguably their worst films are the ones that still feel the need to shove that stuff in there, like Zootopia or Raya and the Last Dragon, both of which suffer from the same problems that plagued Princess and the Frog. Yeah, I know the death of Disney villains is getting all the 30-year-old Disney nuts really cranky.
Hold on a second. Bro. Girl.
that stuff in there, like Zootopia or Raya and the Last Dragon, both of which suffer.
Okay, Zootopia, there is a villain. Are you coming for Tales from Earthsea? Lily, I've said this before, but it's on site.
From the same problems that plagued Princess and the Frog. Yeah, I know the death of Disney villains is getting all the 30-year-old Disney nuts really cranky, but who gives a shit what they think? Furthermore, while the live-action remakes are grating on people, it's worth remembering that the film that started all of this was one that decided it was going to be very different from its source material, as opposed to just being a shot.
Actually, Wicked did this first. This wasn't originally a Disney concept. Disney's wanted to do Wicked since Wicked was on Broadway. Um, Tales from Earthsea is a popular thing to hate. She's just fishing for compliments. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, Disney didn't come up with this formula. They've been wanting to do Wicked for years. And this was their take on it.
For shot remake or making pithy remarks to internet nitpicks. And it was very good. It's arguably one of the best films Disney's ever made, subverting old Disney tropes in ways that are actually very clever. Despite its gloomy atmosphere, it's quite a heartfelt and positive movie. I think Disney is in a place where they could probably remake Princess and the Frog, but rather than waste time addressing the criticisms in film, they just act on it and make a better film. One that isn't swamped, haha, by a cast that is way too fucking big, a villain that doesn't need to actually be here, and a deeply misogynistic main theme. If you want a good theme for the film, it's the one Tiana already has. Tiana throughout the entire film is passively unwilling to step on anyone to get what she wants. She believes in the idea of honest and hard work, which is why there's multiple avenues to get what she wants that don't even come up. But two people in the film sacrifice what they want for her sake because they love her that much. Seeing that happen, indeed seeing that happen consecutively, would probably leave a very big impact on her. It wouldn't necessarily change her dreams, but it would certainly cause her to reprioritize a little bit. And you could do it without having to fucking browbeat her over the head for 90% of the goddamn film. Like, you just need one really impactful emotional moment to have someone sit back and think about what's really important. If you really need the Loa involved, which is fair, I mean, I like the Loa, have her be the one who is offered the bargain at the end. Get everything you want and sacrifice others to do it. But it's actually just a trick to see if the passive unwillingness to step on anyone will become an active unwillingness to step on anyone. Kind of like an episode of Star Trek where Q shows up to teach everyone a lesson in humanity. Hell, the whole movie could fit that as a framing device. I don't know, I'm just spitballing here. At the end of the day,
Again, Lily's getting mad that it's a different movie than she wanted it to be.
the heart of the story is
My dream wouldn't be complete without you in it.
I'll be honest, I don't think Disney wanted this movie to be a box office disappointment. Yeah, they were transitioning completely to 3D animation around the time this came out, but it's not like audiences are sticklers for animation styles. They like both 2D and 3D in equal measure. People often point out how Disney sabotaged Treasure Planet, but that was a movie Disney was obligated to make as part of an agreement, and they never really cared about it, so its success was kind of irrelevant anyway. Disney could have released this, have it sell gangbusters, and then
Gotta be in
transition
my
entirely
bonnet
to
about Treasure
3D, and
Planet.
the only people who would have complained are the technology bad hipsters who wasted their money on that Hullabaloo scam. Disney promoted this film quite a bit because they wanted it to bring them back from the slump the 2000s had been. The problems were the film having a spirograph
This movie
plot
wasn't
and
what I would have
releasing the
done, so
same
it's a
day
bad
as
movie.
James Cameron's colonialist Funland, which, in all fairness, nobody really expected that to be the big moneymaker. I don't know a single person
Yes,
who
they did.
doesn't like this movie, even if that comes with the asterisk of, but it's a fucking mess. Even most of my criticisms are largely about things that distract from the fun part of watching Tiana be utterly cherished by everyone in the main cast. Lily, are you suggesting you would actually want a story of someone just being smothered in love and affection for 120 minutes? What do you mean, would I? I've written that book. Inject that shit straight into my fucking veins, bitch. Look, I'm a child abuse, CSA, and domestic abuse survivor, which means I like my romance soft and reassuring and cute and loving and all that gay shit. I'm not really survivor, which means I like my romance soft and reassuring and cute and loving and all that gay shit.
Yeah, but also, uh, so if you haven't caught this yet, I am making a video which is basically I read Stockholm by Lily Orchard, so you don't have to. And it's a very hard thing to get through. Saw the community course. Can't wait. Yeah. There's a lot of it. Yeah. But I know what kind of thing Lily likes. And she does like those soft, sweet moments, but okay. So I'm just going to set aside the real world allegations against Lily and describe her writing style and the tropes she tends to dwell on. Lily really likes contrasting domestic lovey-dovey shit with really dark shit. She likes that contrast. Um, I like that sort of contrast too. Maybe not using the same tropes that Lily does. Um, and I hope I execute them a bit better. Um, but I noticed with Lily, we get these big sweeping wide shots of like peaceful settings, and then we like are suddenly bam face to face with the characters that are suddenly interacting, and we get a lot of dialogue and a lot of cuddling and blushing, and nothing really happens other than them cuddling and blushing and maybe like awkwardly talking about past experiences, because I'm 98% sure at this point that Lily just ports her role play over into fan fiction. Stockholm has made me very aware of this. I think she's gotten a little bit better at porting it over, but the bones of that, like the signs, the footprint of that happening, is on her current writing as well. At least what I've read of it. But she's always done it. Now, this character in the back, I think that's supposed to be Spectrum Dash and Essentia, isn't it? Or Asana, or whatever she is named now. Asana and Sage, but I believe the prototypical the prototypes were Sage and I'm or Spectrum and Asana or Essentia. Yeah, quite an age difference between them in the original fan fiction. Yeah. But anyway, I'm not looking forward to that part. But I'm not saying that Lily doesn't like the lighthearted stuff, but she likes it with the dark stuff, I've noticed. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. I like that too. It can make the darker stuff feel darker and the lighthearted stuff feel more comforting. And I wish that's all I could say about it. Because there's nothing wrong with that. But that's not the problem. It's like it's written badly, for one thing. And for another thing, it reflects some unfortunate allegations. Let's just say that. Anyway.
Shit. I'm not really down for what some people call spicy romance because I've had that in real life and it sucks and makes you want to kill yourself. And the Princess
You're so full of shit, Lily.
and the Frog is the closest we've actually gotten to the kind of romance I love the most. The uncomplicated joy of seeing the person you love light up as they talk about their passions and thinking, wow, She should really just have it all. I'd like to see a version of this movie that's just that part, and none of the other bullshit. I know it's probably gonna ruffle some feathers that I'm suggesting that the Shadow Man should be removed from the story entirely because I like villains, is my generation's own I'm not like other girls, but he really is just completely unnecessary.
I don't like it when, okay, I'm gonna be very frank. I do not like it when trans women say that shit about not like other girls people. Um, it really bothers me. Um, because usually when you see people that say shit like that, especially if they're trans, you dig in a little bit, you'll find this weird fucking antagonism towards trans men. Um, and considering other videos I've watched again about Lily, it doesn't surprise me. Anyway,
And here entirely out of obligation. Something that became more and more evident until Disney finally wised up and realized, wait, we could just make a normal movie. Anyway, that's all I had to say. Bye!
okay. Women who bring their pre-transition entitlement with their own. Yeah. Anyway. Okay. I've been thinking of watching this for a while, but I haven't yet. But I'm going to now.
Give me money, give me money, give me money, give me money, give me money.
Oh, I know she's gonna gush about her own fan fiction. I will say this about Lily, is that I'm pretty sure either she's just hiding it now or she doesn't do it anymore, but I think she left Dark Fic behind in some way. Maybe because it's now faux pas, and I'm sure that's gonna get in this video is gonna get into that. Um, or because she's emotionally moved on to it because it seems like she is in a pretty caring, healthy, and loving relationship with Michaela one way or another. Like, it feels strange to talk about her in this way, considering what she did, and considering I am not one of her victims. It's hard. Like, I can't speak for them, for her alleged victims. The Tumblr blogs would suggest otherwise. Oh no. Oh god. Every day I find out information against my own will. Maybe. Okay. Well, I'm not. Again, this is not a video about Lily's real life. This is about her writing and her video analysis. I'm not wanting to interrogate. I am trying to keep that as separate as possible. But again, I have noticed that her fan fiction is not as dark as it used to be. That she doesn't get the commissions she gets of art aren't as dark as it used to be. She still has like these weird violent rants sometimes, and she gets weirdly angry and dismissive sometimes, but I would say one way or another that she's healing from whatever dark place that she was in like 5 or 6 years ago. And like, regardless of what kind of person you are, what you've done, where you're at, it is objectively a good thing to be better, to get better, to put effort into being a better person. I don't commend Lily with much, but I think it's good that she's going away from that. Yeah, let's just steer clear of the relationship drama. Let's just say there's a bit of evidence to suggest that she doesn't treat Michaela as well as she proposed. That's unfortunate. I Whatever happens to Lily, um, I would like Lily and Michaela to work out. I think if all of the allegations against her are true, yeah, not my circus, not my monkeys, yeah. Whatever allegations are true, I think the best thing um, would be if Lily no longer accessed the internet and just very quietly and happily left and kind of just enjoyed their time with Michaela and they were happy and healthy and like she had this one person that was with her and was there to comfort her, but she doesn't need to be have access to the internet. Um, in my opinion, you know, if taking the allegations against her seriously, um, like nothing that can be done now can reverse what's already happened, but we can if we can't if you know if we can deplatform her, I think we should and make sure that she can't access any more victims. And I hope that Michaela doesn't become one of those victims. I hope that Lily has moved past that shit. Um, but we'll see. She just logged off and didn't touch the computer anymore. It would be better for everyone. Yes, it would. Yes, it would. I have got some pretty, um, I've got some pretty spicy or controversial opinions on Crime and Punishment, but my main priority is to poke holes and show that she doesn't have anything interesting to say and let the people that are actually knowledgeable and experienced with this person in real life and interpersonally to handle the interpersonal and relationship side of it because I don't know any about that. All I can do is look at her videos and her fan fiction and her writing and make a judgment call on like is this good or is this bad? Is she saying anything useful? You know? And so far, no. Um, so I'm hoping that like if enough people see that she's got nothing good to say, that like less people will watch her. But anyway,
Man, I'm getting a lot of content out of Rise of Skywalker. Actually, that's not true. I'm getting a lot of content out of crazy straight women who completely blew a fucking gasket over the basic realities of their shitty garbage men. Let's get meta, everyone.
what are we fucking talking about?
So, we've been talking a lot about toxic material lately, be that a cartoon that reinforces harmful ideas about
Steven Universe mentioned.
family and forgiveness, or a YouTube creator who preaches never questioning another person's beliefs, or a fandom ship that reinforces and
Look, I don't like ContraPoints, but it's not for any like social justice reason. I just think she's annoying and I don't like the sound of her voice. uh Feel free to join me, Lily. You don't have to come up with a weird reason to hate her. She hates Kylo Ren with a burning passion. Oh, I know.
romanticizes toxic and abusive relationships. And whenever I talk about
I love romanticizing things that I see on TV. I'm going to replicate everything I see on the screen in real life, and it's going to be awesome.
these things, there is always some kind of package dismissal from the people who don't want others to have these discussions. Namely, that worrying about this kind of thing is pointless because it's all fiction and fiction doesn't affect the real world. Of course, those of you who know what art is probably laughed when I said that. This runs in parallel to the kind of people who loudly and endlessly praise a cartoon for being deep and so much more meaningful than regular kitty trash, and then turn around and say,
Hold on, I accidentally Lily, what is this
Kind
voice?
of people who loudly and endlessly praise a cartoon for being deep and so much more meaningful than regular kitty trash, and then turn around and say, lol, it's just a kid's show, when that cartoon's very deep and troublesome issues are brought to light. It's been a common
Okay, so this is going to be eventually be a big part of one of my videos about media literacy. But the problem isn't that things exist, it's that reading comprehension and media literacy is at an all-time fucking low, especially in North America. And Lily is a prime example of this. It's less of a problem that problematic things happen and more of a problem that we don't teach kids how to think critically about what they see on TV. And that isn't just because, oh, well, we want to make sure that our kids don't get groomed by the weird anime, like Lily seems to think. But it's also like, hey, can you spot propaganda when it's shown to you? Do you know what a dog whistle is? Um, when somebody's trying to sell you something, what do these things mean? Like what do these things on the screen mean? What is the text? What is the subtext? And in the context of when and where and who made something, does that change things? Um, why was something made? These are all super important questions to ask. Um, anyway, so if you show someone Steven Universe and or you show someone something like I don't know. I'm going to go back to one of my edgy dark things that I had mentioned in a previous video, Johnny the Homicidal Maniac. Um I read a bit of Johnny when I was a teenager, and I started watching Steven Universe when I was a young adult. Um, I knew when I was a teenager that I should not kill my neighbors and paint my wall with blood, you know, because I had media literacy and I had good reading comprehension, and I read at a higher grade level because I was a hashtag gifted kid. That's not a good thing, folks. It means that like I did really good at one thing when I was very young and nobody ever bothered. Everybody thought that I would be an easy kid, so they just ignored me and blamed me for not knowing how to study when I started struggling in high school. But anyway, the point is that like I had pretty good I'm not, I wasn't a genius or anything, but like I could tell when I read something bad that I wasn't supposed to do those bad things. I could think critically about it. And then I watched Steven Universe, and because I picked up those skills when I was a teenager and like preteen, I was like, hey, um, what is this trying to say? It was made by a woman named Rebecca Sugar, who is like non-binary woman, Jewish. And Steven Universe is inspired by her younger brother, Steven Sugar. Um, if it does it makes you feel any better? I didn't figure out studying until undergrad. Oh boy, I'm going back to school in the fall, so hopefully, well, I'm pretty good at it now. Like I like studying and researching things now. Anyway, so I watched Steven Universe as a young adult, and there are things that I can criticize about it, but like also the point isn't to, and I'm not the first person to tread this ground, I know, but the point isn't that like the diamonds were forgiven. The point was that Steven was himself. Like Steven was always Steven. He wasn't just another version of Rose Quartz. He was his own person. And considering other people's point of view is what brought about change in this series. Um, and you get it as early on as the trial chamber episode where Stephen asks the gems to test him, and they do, and it sets up the major theses of the film from there. For so long, we've been in the mindset of silly, goofy Steven who's just trying to be like the gems and who's trying really hard, but he's kind of falls behind. But for the first time in that episode, there's like a shift. And we see that the gems are people too. And they're just trying to do their best by Steven, even if they don't completely understand him because he's a brand new being. Um, I think it's really cool. Um, that we actually start to see from Pearl, Amethyst, and Garnet's point of view. That, that whole like, like he needs a win. Like, are we messing this up? Like how do we do this right? It's like how do we know how we do this right? There's been nothing ever like Steven. And so Steven sees that point of view and like you could take this as a positive or a negative, but he decides that he needs to stop worrying about him achieving things, and he starts worrying about other people's wins. That it wasn't just him that needed to win that day, it was the gems. Now, in the end, Stephen had to grow up faster than he probably should have. Absolutely yes. Um, but when you're dealing with personal issues like that, there's a lot more nuance in your interactions. I wouldn't call Pearl, Amethyst, and Darnus abusive because Stephen felt like that. They were doing their best. Um, and Stephen just so happened to see them in a not so flattering way. Anyway, so I'm gonna keep playing this. Um,
Thread among a great deal of fandom culture, but shippers in particular, to decry criticism of things like toxic pairings by claiming that fiction doesn't affect reality. That it's all harmless, and just because you like something in fiction doesn't reflect your views in reality.
why are you coming for Lindsay Ellis? You just hate women that are more successful than you are, don't you, Lily? Um, so yeah, she's just going mask off. She's an anti, but only for the things that she doesn't like, and because I'm sure, yeah.
Sentiment that is as passionately stated as it is fucking nonsense. You've probably heard this most recently from the hobgoblins of the Raylo cult trying in vain to deny and talk over anyone who points out the very real reality that their favorite ship is between the main character and an abusive, creepy, genocidal greaseball that they've attached themselves to for no other reason than a slavish devotion to the enemies to lovers trope and a weird, creepy hard-on for Adam Driver. Incidentally, I find it hilarious that these greasy sci-fi weebs are insisting that fiction doesn't affect reality while they're getting
Okay, so Lily does this really interesting thing I've noticed, where she makes a comment about gross men, masculine, greasy, disgusting, greedy men, but then the group of people that she's talking about is women. I don't know if I'd call it transmisogynist, but it's definitely sexist. I love infants to make fics, but totally doesn't mean I like it in real life. Okay, see the thing is that with reading comprehension, you can see that like the appeal. Like I didn't watch the last couple of Star Wars movies because I lost interest because what I liked about Star Wars movies was Han, Luke, and Leia. But I know that like I don't think it's that he's a genocidal creep that interests them. I think what interests them is that he's a broken soul um, that has done something terrible but is on the path of redemption or something. That tends to be what people actually like. Um, so not everything has to be read so literally, Lily. Um,
absolutely furious that Daisy Ridley sat beside John Boyega at the BAFTAs instead of Adam Driver. No, really, they did that. But chances are, if you hang around any other fandom, you'll probably find
People
other
treated
pairings that
Boyega
tacitly
awful.
ignore the very concept of basic human sensibilities, and then proceed to get defensive about fiction versus reality when they're called out. And just because I hate every single one of you and I want you all to suffer, I'm going to read out a list of examples provided to me by my viewers who have seen some shit. From Invader Zim, an adult with a child. The
Lily, no. We're seeing Lily's no TP list. Let's go.
Joker and Harley Quinn, a relationship that was openly written as abusive with the direct intention of it ending and never coming
Yeah,
back.
it's cringe.
Elsa and Anna, two actual literal sisters for whom the joke of how Disney writes dialogue wore out after 4 days. Do you still
I'm sorry, I didn't want to pause on the incest, but like, Lily, you didn't have to. You didn't have to bring up a piece of fan art of them kissing.
like Ruby? Well, get ready to hate yourself because you have a racist and the girl he spends most of his time tormenting, a guy in the main villain who murdered his girlfriend, and a girl with her abusive and homicidal ex. Oh,
I don't
yeah,
know
the
anything
fandom
about
also did the
Ruby.
Frozen thing again. Pretty much everything from Sonic the Hedgehog when you remember that
Coming for Sonic the Hedgehog.
most of these characters are kids and or teen.
Oh my god. Stop. Okay, like, listen. If you have to look at a character and you have to like, and you don't know they're a kid right off, but like, look at Vex. What on what fucking earth? But in any case, if you can't tell by looking at a character that's like, hey, that's a kid, it doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't matter. The character isn't real. And if it's not obviously a kid, like, regardless of whether you think fiction doesn't affect reality, but if you look at a character and you're like, hey, I can't tell if that's a kid or not, then like, you're obviously not attracted to the kid part, you know? Like, oh god. Give me a second. Let me Google something. Oh my god, my keyboard's dying. I have batteries somewhere, but I might take a break in a bit. Hold on a second. Alright. I'm trying to prove a point. Just give me a second. Yeah, this one works. Okay, so copy image link. Yeah, let's do that. So got this guy. We've got we've got this guy. And we've got this guy. That's much higher res than the other two. You thought they were a thing because you think friendly dialogue is flirtatious. Okay, so why don't you take a look at these three characters? All designed and written. No, I don't think Squall is, but all designed visually by the same guy, Tetsuno Nomura. Now, I want you to guess which one is underage. Is it Cloud No Googling. Do not Google. Is it Cloud? Is it Riku? Or is it Squall? I just guess. Just guess. Who's ever looking? Which one is underage? Is it Squall? Is it Riku? Is it Cloud? Which one of these is a child? I just want somebody to guess in the chat which one of these is a kiddo, which one of these is underage. Nope, you're wrong. 21, 18. He's an adult in this page. This is set a year after the end of Kingdom Hearts 3. Um, when Riku was 17 in Kingdom Hearts 3, this was set a year after. Riku is an adult here. He is 18. And Squall from Final Fantasy 8, yes, Final Fantasy 8 is 17. This is the child. They all look the same. You cannot tell which of these is a kid, and it's Squall. Yeah, legal adult. Because here's the thing, people are like, there's some discourse about, oh, this person is, like brains don't fully develop until you're 25. We've got to nip that in the bud. The fact of the matter is that age is like, like maturity is subjective, and people mature at different rates. Yes, this is true. And it is weird if like a 40-year-old dated an 18-year-old. Probably would be similarly weird if he dated a 29-year-old or a 25-year-old. It's weird. It's a little weird. But we have agreed as a society in most parts of the world, that 18, you are an adult. You can make your own decisions. It is not, you know, like, we have decided that once you're 18, you are an adult and you can make your own adult decisions, and that includes choosing to date somebody that is a fucking creep. Legality does not equal morality. You know what I mean? And we've got to hold that line at 18, because it's not just about the age of consent in terms of sex and dating. If you can't take them out for drinks, you shouldn't be dating them. Nope, because the drinking age is different in basically every country. It is only 21 um, in the United States. In Canada, it's 19. In Quebec, it's even younger, actually. In a bunch of in Europe, it's a bunch of different things. That's the thing, is that it's so subjective. Not how about this if you can't do this. We as a society have agreed, and it's not like people pulled 18 out of their asses. You know, like, we have decided through research and trial and error and being humans for a very long time that 18-year-olds are adults, and we have to treat them like adults capable of making their own decisions. And even if they make a decision that even if the decisions they make are a bad one, doesn't mean it doesn't mean that we should like penalize them legally. All right. Hot take, you shouldn't be an adult until you're 25 and your brain stops growing. Okay, that's pseudoscience. your brain is always growing and developing your entire life. But the 25 and up thing isn't true. Um, Also, what if somebody's 22 and like I'm older than this now, but what if somebody's 22 and like a 26-year-old wants to date them? Is that weird? Is that creepy? I don't think so. That's a pretty normal age difference. You know, my, I think my no, my parents married a little bit earlier than that, and my mom turned out to be a lesbian anyway. But anyway, um, we have to hold fast at 18 for a reason. And it isn't just so creeps can date 18-year-olds. Um, if we give ground on 18, people will start saying, it's like, okay, but trans kids, like how can they know that they're actually trans until they're 25? Their brains haven't finished developing yet. You see how easy that is? You see how easy it is to go from like pushing the age of majority up to 25 to suddenly taking away the rights of trans people, and how it just doesn't, it's a complicated thing. We also have like Romeo and Juliet laws that are supposed to help with things like a 17-year-old being a 19-year-old, you know, um, which again I also don't think is that weird. Um, but yeah, in terms of animated characters, if you can't pinpoint which of these characters is underage, if I think this guy's hot and I think this guy's hot, why is it weird suddenly if it's like, oh, Skull's kind of hot, and he's like, oh, well, he's 17. It's like, well, I didn't know that. I mean, I know now, and I probably, but he's a fiction. He's a fictional character. It's not that big of a deal. I'm not gonna corrupt and abuse Squall Leonhardt. There's nothing to corrupt and abuse. He's polygons. He will be okay. I can't talk my partner I met when I was 20 and he was 26. Yeah, exactly. See, it's complicated, like most human things and relationships are. And it's fucking weird that I'm getting lectured about this from Lily goddamn Orchard. Anyway, but yeah, you can't look. If you can't look at any one of these characters, like obviously like Charmy's a kid and Tails is a kid. We all know that. They're characterized as children. But the rest of them are not. Like Rouge, like I mean I guess she got them eyelashes. But Rouge and Knuckles are a thing. Actually, hold on. How old? Oh my god, the freaking keyboard. Knuckles, the echidna age. 16. Interesting. Rouge the Bat age. 18. Okay. Amy Rose age. Well, what? I mean, yeah, bruh. I think that means the series. Uh, won't anyone think of the polygons? Yeah. So, like, while I don't completely disagree that if somebody's like, I want to fuck Charmy the Bee, look at his little baby cute body, like, that's weird. That's a little weird. I don't like that. But if somebody didn't realize that, like, Knuckles was 17 or, like, Sonic is. See, Sonic's 16, but Shadow's, like, decades old. Like, it's It's stupid. They're little fur balls with noodly arms. They all look the same. I'm not a furry. But I'm not gonna fucking. If you want Rouge's bat titties, then it's okay, fine by me. Like it's I don't like it. If you want to, if you want to tap that, I think it would be foolish to call you a pedophile for wanting to tap that. There's like a whole other situation going on. You know what I mean? But he's 17, so you're what is this? Anyway, but he's 17, so you're doing a no-no. Like it's not as black and white as that, you know?
Teenagers, and also when you remember what most of the Sonic fandom is like. Thor and Loki from the MCU, because it wasn't enough to have the Frozen Thing and Raylo, someone just had to smash them together like a gross Play-Doh factory. Oh hey, and you know what else is popular? Tony and Peter. I'll give you a minute to finish having your existential crisis.
Okay. Um
What else is popular? Tony and Peter.
so this man, Tom Holland, is my age. He is turning 32 this year. It is a bit of an age difference. It is a bit of an age difference, but they are both adults. I don't think. I mean, again, Peter the character is in high school, I think, in this, so that's a little bit weird. But I don't think if you look at these two men, like clearly like age differences, but I don't think if you look at these two adult men that are both, you know, God, I'm not sure how old they were when they shot this, how old Tom was when he shot that, but he wasn't a kid. Like I said, he's my age, and I'm 32 this year. I don't think it makes you like a pedophile. I think it is an age difference. Oh yeah, no, definitely it is shipping the characters, but it's kind of like going back to these guys, you know, and these guys are polygons, and now we're sitting back to like these guys are like real life people. I would I have like I would have a lot more of a problem if Tom was like 15 in when he shot the Spider-Man movies, but he wasn't. He was like 27 at the youngest. Again, I'm trying to remember. What was the first one that he appeared in? It was Age of Ultron, wasn't it? Come on, with the keyboard. Civil War. My bad. 2016. So 32. 2016. That was 8 years ago. So he would have been 24. And Robert Downey Jr. would have been 51. So that is weird. But they were adults. It's weird, but it's not predatory. I think to look at two adult men and be like, I think they're hot together. The characters again, it's dicey. It's not a black and white thing, you know. But I think calling people that like it a pedophile is a bit of a stretch considering how old Tom was when this movie was shot.
I'll give you a minute to finish having your existential crisis.
I don't like that shit, by the way. I fucking hate Tony Stark as a character. And I don't like the interference he's made with the Spider-Man character. I think it ruins Spider-Man as a character. So I'm not defending my own ship. I'm just saying that, like, we need to look at this with nuance.
Alistair and literally anyone from Has Been Hotel, but most specifically with Charlie, because he has this kind of sinister ulterior motive thing going on, and apparently fandoms turn up their nose at canon ships that are actually cute and mutually supportive in favor of the one that cannot possibly end well.
Oh no, people think bad guys are hot. Oh my god. Grow up.
Roxas and Axel from Kingdom Hearts, because Roxas is the same age as Sora and Axel is in his 20s. Dipper and Mabel.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that one's kind of creepy. I think everybody always did. Yeah, throwing stones at glass houses. I think she thinks she's casting a smoke screen or something. Yeah, no, definitely.
From Gravity Falls, a brother and sister pair, so it's the Frozen thing, except this time it's straight.
That's even worse.
And they're little kids.
How is that worse? I don't know, but it's the same.
From Harry Potter, oh boy, this is gonna.
It's worse because they're straight? Lily, it's worse because they're kids. Lily. Oh my god. No, I'm going back. I gotta go back.
Hearts, because Roxas is the same age as Sora and Axel is in his 20s. Dipper and Mabel from Gravity Falls, a brother and sister pair, so it's the Frozen thing, except this time it's straight.
That's even worse.
No, that's not why it's worse, Lily. It's not worse because it's straight. It's worse because they're children. Like, she's. I'm clipping that part of my stream and then adding on freaking that one song. Um anyway, you'll see it later on YouTube, probably as a short.
How is that worse? I don't know, but it's the same.
From Harry Potter, oh boy, this
Curb
is
Your
gonna be fun. A
Enthusiasm.
wealth of horrifying and cursed ships. We have Draco with Harry or Hermione, which is.
I like Jerry. Yeah, I said it. I don't really care about it this day and age because I don't give J.K. Rowling or her book at a time of day, but you know, I like Jerry.
Just horrible romanticizing of abuse, as well as Snape with Harry and Hermione, which is that times 1,000, and also have a seat over there, you asshole. And lastly, we have Lapis with anybody.
Imagine drawing a scene this sinister looking. Oh yeah, there was a whole different Mabel thing before. Yeah, people shipped that.
From Steven Universe for being abusive and toxic, as well as Lars and Sadie for the massive age gap, as well as the fact that Sadie's
There's an age gap?
kind of a nut. That one actually was also canon for a while because the show is made by someone who in the past has shipped quite a few of the things on this cursed list. Oh, also Pearl and Rose because nothing says romance like a master and slave dynamic, apparently. So, do you hate your life for having that information now?
Yeah.
Because I sure do. I didn't even get into Friendship is Magic because I want to make you lose your faith in humanity, not actively damage your mental health.
Jedi Sith lesbian. That's like the most toxic shit you can have. Yeah, sure. Death cult and yeah, okay.
Seriously, though, there are a lot of pedophiles, like so many pedophiles. Alright, jump into the cold pool. The problem with the sentiment that these kind of horrifying ships are harmless is that it fundamentally ignores and denies how art works. Art has always inspired the real world. Art has always affected reality. Art has always influenced people. If art doesn't influence the world, why are all our phones basically tricorders now? Why are home assistants and smart home technology basically bringing the ship's computer into real life? Why are they
Because okay, listen, Lily. Listen, Lily. if you have critical thinking skills, you are inspired by the good things and you don't do the bad things. Why do you think we haven't brought back like hangings and like public coliseums and like all the awful things we've seen in movies over the years?
There are people seriously working out the science behind a lightsaber. Actually, no, if art doesn't influence the real world, why did someone make an actual working lightsaber? If art doesn't influence the real world, why does every hack fuck with no literacy skills invoke 1984 and Animal Farm anytime someone even slightly suggests taxing the rich slightly more than they're currently being taxed? Why is the suppression of art a cornerstone of dystopian science fiction? Why do anarchists wear that stupid fucking mask? Why do religions exist at all? Or, and here we're getting into the big one, if art doesn't influence the real world, why are Star Wars fans such vitriolic, hateful fucking hobgoblins to real world people simply because they didn't like what happened in their fiction stories for children? Art has always influenced the real world because artists go out of their way to influence people. Nothing is ever just fiction. Everything inspires something, even if it wasn't intended. Do you really think Gene Roddenberry expected engineers to spend decades recreating the technology he put into Star Trek? The notion that fiction and reality
This woman who headed a hate campaign against Rebecca Sugar. Yeah, no kidding. To reduce Gene Roddenberry's accomplishments as an artist and a creator to technology is to do the man such a gross misservice. Um, but like, okay, let's go Star Trek. There is a reason why people want to be more like the Federation than the Klingons or the Ferengi. Why we see Spock as an aspirational character and not Q. It's because we have developed this wonderful thing called critical thinking skills, where, you know what? Okay, listen. Lily clearly hasn't. This is Canadian. This is Canadian. Like,
It's nighttime.
this is Canadian. This is a Canadian classic. One that I know Lily saw growing up because Lily and I are the same age and live in the same fucking city.
It's nighttime in a kitchen just like yours. All is quiet. Or is it? The North American house hippo is found throughout Canada and the eastern United States. House hippos are very timid creatures and are rarely seen, but they will defend their territory if provoked. They come out at night to search for food, water, and materials for their nests. The favorite foods of the house hippo are chips, raisins, and the crumbs from peanut butter on toast. They build their nests in bedroom closets, using lost mittens, dryer lint, and bits of string. The nests have to be very soft and warm. House hippos sleep about 16 hours a day.
That looked really real, but you knew it couldn't be true, didn't you? That's why it's good to think about what you're watching on TV and ask questions, kind of like you just did. A message from Concerned Children's Advertisers.
This was a PSA that came on in Canada in the late 90s and early 2000s. I'm sure that it still comes on today. Um, and it's about critical thinking skills in the media that you watch. I can watch this, and even if I didn't see the last part, be like, "Oh, that's kind of cute, little tiny little hippo." But like, even before the video ends, even as a child, I knew that that wasn't real. It wasn't a real thing, and I knew this from a very young age. And that's the point. is that we need to worry less about censoring what people make, because that's not something you're ever going to be able to do in a meaningful level. People will always find regressive and contentious media. Um, Sometimes people will start watching content that we think is gross. Sometimes they'll start watching propaganda and get sucked into cults. And we cannot stop them from seeing those things, because people will seek it out and watch it regardless of attention. But, and here's a key factor, if we teach kids at a young age how to be critical of the things that they're watching, they're not going to get sucked into these toxic environments. Um, Now, as I mentioned earlier in the stream, I am watching, or I am reading, I should say, Stockholm by Lily Orchard. It's archived. It's on the internet forever. She's never going to get rid of it. Do you think that me reading Stockholm is going to turn me into a rapist and a pedophile? Why don't you think that? Because I'm going into it, because that's not how things work. That's not how, like, there's not a book in the world that can turn somebody that isn't a pedophile into a pedophile. Not how it works. But also, I'm not going to suddenly think that this is okay or whatever. Regardless, listen, Lily says that, like, oh, like, it's, they get punished in the end. A, that's part of it for Lily. B, it's still in the text, very titillating. But my point is that I'm going in here with a very critical eye. And that's the whole point, is that I'm criticizing Lily. So what's, like, I'll go back to our boys again. I'll go back to our boys again. I look at Cloud and Squall and Riku. And I could be like, yeah, these are some beautiful, attractive dudes. Those are some gorgeous polygons. And I could look at Riku and I could be like, well, his model from Kingdom Hearts 3 and from the time skip at the end of Kingdom Hearts 3 that's set a year after, even though he's 18 in this, it's the same model that was used for his 17-year-old self. And is there something, and then I can think, like, I can interrogate, like, if I think that this character is pretty, and this character is pretty, and this character is pretty, and this character is the same model he had when he was 17, and this character is technically 17. If these characters all look the same and I think they're attractive, does that mean that I'm attracted to teenagers? And I could think, well, they don't really look like real people. They are like exaggerations of real people. Maybe I'll think, like, well, what do I find attractive about them? You know? And, like, this is hard as somebody that's, like, aromantic and asexual. I more appreciate them on like an aesthetic level than like a carnal level. But so, like, take what I say with a grain of salt. But I can interrogate what I find attractive about them. They have nice hair. They have nice eyes. They're strong. They're cool. Um, I like their outfits and their armor. I like the look of, like, guns out, gloves on. Squall's got a jacket, but and then I can think, are any of the things that I like about these characters, is it about them being kids? Considering that, like, only one of them, being Squall, is actually underage, and he doesn't look underage, I can probably go out on a limb and say that no. especially when you can look at, again, you look at Riku, same model used in the rest of the game. They didn't update his model to make him look a year older. They wouldn't do that because that's would be a waste of time. You don't really change physically in appearance between the ages of like 16 and 24, 25. And if you're Japanese and Riku is based on a Japanese person, um, it's even more dicey, you know? Like it gets increasingly harder to tell the age of someone depending on their race because of how they look. In any case, my point here is that I can kind of interrogate what I find interesting and perhaps attractive about these characters, and I can like have that conversation with myself in my head about like what does that mean? Why do I like this? Um, and because I have critical thinking skills, I can get determined that like, hey, not really about the fact, it's not really about the ages, you know? I hope I'm like illustrating my point here. Um, so now I can go to like, well, the Sonic characters aren't up again. Bring them back up again if my keyboard will work. We will finish. And so if I can take what I learned from that and I can bring up these characters and I can kind of start applying that logic to this group of characters, you know, where can I go from there? Um, and I think maybe if you're looking at a character like like Cream or Tails or Charmy, I don't know if he's there. And it's like if you are into that and you interrogate why you're into that, and it's like, oh, it's because I like kids. That's a problem. And that's like a whole other conversation that I am not ready to have today. Um, and it's an especially difficult conversation to have surrounding somebody like Lily Orchard who has done things that aren't great. And I do not want to reduce the conversation about what Lily has done to fiction versus reality. I know that we're talking about it right now. Um, but anyway.
Are completely 100% separate from one another is so laughably boneheaded that it would almost be funny if it weren't for the fact that this isn't idiocy that causes this argument, it's delusion. At the end of the last video, I made the remark that much of this discourse is about protecting oneself, and that's ultimately where the brain rot truly lies. There is an epidemic of people who are progressive only until things get personal, who are invested so hard in the idea of themselves as a good person that they will become extremely distressed and panicked the moment that view of themselves is threatened. And when that self-image is threatened, it means
I
that
find it really weird and uncomfortable that Lily is constantly shoving pictures of herself and her fictional and self inserts kissing in front of our faces all the time. It's very uncomfortable. It makes me feel weird and gross. Um, I don't like it. Maybe that's because I'm ace, but it just gives me the heebie jeebies. Like, why are you constantly showing me this?
the person asks uncomfortable questions about themselves and has to reevaluate their own positions and their own wokeness, so to speak. This is why we've seen so much of BreadTube steadily turn into progressives, alt-right apologists, and dirtbags, because they're brushing
What?
up against the reality that they are not the final word and that they have things to learn and biases to examine. But because much of their identity is built around being the voice of the left on YouTube, when confronted with that reality, the majority of them shut down completely. Natalie Wynn made a career on transphobic jokes and set pieces presented as endearing self-deprecation, but the reality reality is that she isn't as progressive as she likes to think she is, and so when confronted with many of her outdated and fundamentalist beliefs and the way she surrounds herself with conservatives and centrists, what did she do? Double down and cry about cancel culture and how the only truly rational way to approach bigots is to never challenge them at all and hope they'll just magically change their views on their own, despite the fact that that's never how that works. A woman who
I don't watch ContraPoints, but that doesn't seem right. And what does this have to do with fucking shipping?
who has built much of her identity around converting the alt-right panics the moment she's faced with the reality that she is the one being converted, not the other way around. Here's another example, the castle doctrine. In this game, you play as a man trying to protect his family with security systems. If a robber gets to your house, your wife tries to escape with half your money, which means the robber has to kill her in order to get it. Meanwhile, you're out trying to do the same thing to other players. The game caught a lot of criticism.
Okay, so Lily, I need you to show me. Okay, so now you have to show me where a fictional ship turns somebody into a pedophile. Go.
Because this is pretty archetypal sexism to reduce the only female presence in the game to a resource you have to murder to double your money. The excuse given by the developer was that the game was intended as a critique of toxic male culture, which is countered by the fact that this wasn't a critique, this was just being the thing. The developer then continued to explain, constantly, and remarking on the criticisms as confusion, as if the people criticizing the game didn't get it. Now, I'm gonna give you 5 seconds to figure out how to fix this problem. Figure it out? Here goes. The developer could have either A. randomized the gender of the player and spouse, or B. let the player choose both of those things. See, here's the thing. The complaint was ultimately about the implications of a very small portion of the game, an aspect of the game that was in fact so small that it wasn't a hill worth dying on. The solution
Remember when
was
this was
so
about shipping?
simple and so easy that it could have been implemented within
Okay,
a
Lily,
week and pleased everybody, but
show
it would
me
have
how.
required
Okay, now you're gonna show me. You're gonna show me evidence. You're gonna show me some hard evidence that a fictional ship turns somebody into a pedophile. Go.
something pretty big for a lot of people. It would have required conceding that there was a problem in the first place. For the developer to go, why did I automatically go for the husband doing the protecting, making the couple that represents the game mechanics heterosexual, and make the spouse always be female? And that might risk the developer, and indeed everyone who plays the game, realizing that they have some biases to overcome and things to learn. And when most people do that, they instead have a crisis over the idea that they might not be a good person. Think back to Natalie Wynn for a minute. Most of what she gets in trouble for tends to be offhand remarks and very short
Remember when this was about shipping?
clips and videos that rub people the wrong way. Hardly a hill worth dying on. And yet she gets so sanctimonious, so defensive, and so fucking histrionic over the idea of being criticized for them. Because it's not about Buck Angel or her sticking by her shitty opinions. It's about not wanting to have that
The Buck Angel
conversation with
stuff.
herself about her very evident self-hatred and internalized transphobia. The human mind is a miracle, and you will never see it spring more beautifully into action than when it is fighting against evidence that it needs to change. Your psyche is equipped with layer after layer of defense mechanisms designed to shoot down anything that might keep things from staying exactly the way they are. This is why you see conservatives and centrists cry so much about cancel culture, despite the fact that people who get canceled
This was
often
made 4
very
years
rarely
ago,
suffer
so
any real consequences for their behavior outside of the emotional stress of being shamed for that behavior. This is why you see performative socialists and centrists cry about woke scolding, because in the face of no real defense for your actions, the only recourse your brain has is to reach for an excuse not to listen to someone. Deflections, complaints about PC culture, tone policing, getting huffy that someone is abrasive, trying to prove that someone is a hypocrite, focusing on the messenger to avoid hearing the message, and actively contradicting things you already know to be true are all psychological traps your brain will bombard you with to keep you from acknowledging that there is a problem that needs to change. Let me go to something that isn't necessarily ideological. My ex-fiance tried really hard to get me to drink alcohol. She tried to get me into drinking games, tried to get me to try different kinds of wine and cocktails, and she did not respond well when I told her that I don't drink. Now, I don't avoid alcohol for any principles about drugs. In fact, I had a caffeine addiction for a very long time, but alcoholic beverages taste like piss to me. But my lack of drinking really bothered her to the point that she would openly complain about it. This really confused me until a few years later when I was in therapy as a result of that relationship, and my therapist explained to me that the reason she was so upset by that was because my refusal to drink while she was drinking made her feel like she was being judged, and that it wasn't wasn't anything to do with me. She was just battling with guilt over her own drinking habits and lashing out at anything that might cause her to question how much she drank and even consider if she might have a drinking problem. Chances are you'll see this with people who
Projection. Like, with
love.
like it's really irresponsible. Um, she's lying. She's 100% lying. It is very irresponsible for a therapist to diagnose or make assumptions like that about somebody who isn't even fucking there. Lily, you are lying. Your therapist did not say that. You were Googling things and you came to your own conclusion. Honestly, no, it's toxic and cliche, but I don't trust anyone who doesn't drink. um, no, if Lily doesn't want to drink, that's her own choice. If she felt pressured by her ex to drink, um, and I also don't think it's that cut and dry as Lily is making it out to be. Um, Based on the way Lily talks about stories, it could like we don't know. It could be as simple as like Jesse decided to have a few drinks and Lily was there and wasn't participating and Lily got what was the one that was like she's pressuring me. I feel like I should drink because Jesse's drinking in my presence. I don't know because Lily is such a dishonest person that I don't know how much of that is true. What I do know isn't true is that her therapist told her that her wife had a drinking problem and is signing feel you don't do that. It is psychologically, it's very irresponsible to tell your patients what the people around them might think or feel. Okay? Are you kind of picking up what I'm going down? Therapy is about working on your inner self. It's not about, well, maybe your ex pushed you to drink because she has a drinking problem. She felt guilty. That's not how you would go about this. Now, I am not directly in, well, I've done it. I kind of, in my day job, I float in this world between the education system and the therapy system, and I mostly work with young adults and children. Um, and I've gotten like many courses on this. I'm going back to school in the fall to take a formal training on this so that I can speak on this stuff with more authority. I don't believe Lily's been to a therapist, and even if she has, she's probably either lied to the therapist or she misinterpreted what the therapist said. I will comment on that in a second. My point is that um, it is irresponsible medically to say something like that to a patient. That did not happen. Now, as for if Lily has been to a therapist before, I she has. She has been to a therapist before. Um, we know this for a fact. Um, well, it's alleged. It's alleged, but Courtney has confirmed, and Courtney has gone on the record to say that Lily has been to a therapist before. She might have continued to go to that same one after the fact. Actually, what year did Lily transition? Um, it was after 2014. I think it was 2015. Um, I believe, and now I could be wrong. When did I get my top surgery? I was 25. 25. That was 7 years ago. Yeah, 7 years ago was 2015. So Lily started transitioning or the same year that I got my top surgery, I believe. Um, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty by going by like when her online handles changed. Um, it would have been 2015. I believe at that time you still in Canada and specifically in Nova Scotia. Again, me and Lily live in the same city. In Nova Scotia, you need to get a letter from your therapist, or you did. I think it's a little bit different now. It's a little bit more lenient. Like you can get it from a family doctor or the sexual health clinic or something like that. I haven't had to worry about this in a long time because I got everything taken care of way back in 2012, 2013. Um, but I believe at the time Lily would have needed to go to a therapist to transition. Um, and I'm sure she's been to a therapist, but the thing is that the therapists in Nova Scotia aren't very good. They're very overworked, and most of them just do CBT. But even then, they would definitely not have delved into her trauma, her specific traumas like that. They would have taught her CBT. And if she was on disability, like I believe she has claimed that she is or was at least, then she would have qualified for a free therapist through the Nova Scotia mental health clinics. And they would have done CBT with her, smacked her on the bum, and sent her on her way. Thank you to everybody that tries to get a therapist for free in Nova Scotia. Um, anyway, like I said, she saw a therapist throughout her adolescence, but it's a bit more dubious about her adult mental health treatment. Yeah, she would definitely have had to transition though. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure at that point she still would have needed a letter from a therapist and a psychiatrist. Um, I think it actually has to specifically be not just a therapist, by a psychologist, like somebody with a doctorate and a psychiatrist, somebody who can properly diagnose. Anyway, so yeah, Lily, your therapist didn't say that. You're just lying right now.
Love marijuana. I've caught a lot of flack for treating marijuana like tobacco or alcohol. The medical benefits of marijuana are exaggerated by many people, and its habit-forming properties are often ignored. Whenever I point this out, I get screeds from people who want to convince me that marijuana is this miracle drug that can fix anything. But I've never actually been against marijuana. I firmly believe that it should be legal because law enforcement wastes its time and resources chasing down slightly smellier cigarettes, and in the US, marijuana is literally just a scapegoat as an excuse to throw black people in prison by the boatloads. So I'm basically as pro-marijuana as a person can possibly get, yet people still get upset about this. Why? Because they're trying to keep themselves from asking the question, do I have a smoking problem? And I've met people who are clearly addicted to marijuana and are destroying themselves with it, yet they will go through any mental gymnastics
I mean, I agree with this part for the most part, but what does this have to do with shipping?
possible to avoid admitting that there's a problem. You quickly learn that these kind of defensive screeds are not about trying to convince you. They're talking to themselves because they want to believe. And now we circle back to shipping, which is probably the worst for this
Okay, here
particular
we go.
defensive habit because it causes people to find ways to excuse things that should be objectively bad. Abuse, pedophilia, incest, unhealthy power dynamics, all things that are normalized in fandoms. Let's
Okay, now show us where a ship turns someone into a pedophile. Go.
rip the bandage off right now. The reason people get so defensive and try to make so many excuses is because they don't want to admit that there is a problem within their own brain. Think about Reylo. Reylo is presented by its fans as a way to suggest that Rey has a responsibility to bring Kylo Ren back to the light and coax him through his issues. But this isn't just a quirky ship dynamic. This is how many people actually believe relationships.
You know, me person. Oh, they need a girlfriend that doesn't mind listening and trying to help them work through their shit. These are fucking demons that are asking them to pour out their soul to a stranger who is only listening to their job. That's the kind of shit you do for people you love. Your partner is not your therapist. Your partner is one thing, but it's not your responsibility to help you work through your shit. Yeah, your partner is not your therapist. That's not wrong, but Raylo did not cause this.
Work. Straight women are pressured to view themselves as their partner's therapist.
This is also not a problem with Raylo or with fiction. This is yeah, this is not a problem with fiction. This has existed long before or I should say long before fiction existed, because fiction has existed for basically as long as humans have been able to speak. But this is not like a shipping thing.
It's not uncommon to see straight women remark on how much they have to be a caretaker to their partner and see nothing wrong with that. It's the sitcom stereotype of a wife who does all the housework, raises the kids, and deals with the finances, while the husband lounges around watching TV and taking no active role in the adult responsibilities. And when pressured, many Raylos will often reveal that they view relationships as a caregiver dynamic. This isn't just fiction, this is how they actually view relationships. The
fucking source.
romanticization of this kind of dynamic is a form of misogyny, and that's something that the mostly straight women who make up Raylo's fan base don't want to acknowledge. Nobody truly wants to.
Here's the thing, is that I don't like Raylo, but I have been in that situation where I'm taking care of another person and didn't want to. Um, and it really sucks, but that wasn't caused by Raylo. That was caused by sexist. Man, it's such a doozy when you're a trans man and somebody expects you to be the woman of the relationship. It's downright dysphoric, but anyway.
Accept the fact that they have internalized bigotry to work through. Oftentimes, people can't accept that they have external bigotry to work through, but so often that denial causes
You can't use trolls. Like, that's a troll, my friend.
issues like this, where a group of women can prove to be openly racist, misogynistic, and homophobic and still believe that they're the ones being bullied. But the harsh truth of the situation is that if you
Sounds like you will,
can
Billy.
look at all of this,
Droid, we have what we need. You know I can take whatever I want. It's time to let old things
Yeah,
die.
I don't like
You
this
have no
either.
place in the story. You come from nothing. You're nothing. I'll destroy her. And you.
and not see this instantly to be abusive behavior, well, I'm sorry, but you need therapy. This doesn't just apply to abusive ships that straight women fawn over. It applies to every
Toxic ship is like half siblings, full-blooded siblings, a pedophile and her enabler, a father and child, etc. Lily. Yeah, well. Oh, you weren't here earlier when she went
gross
through the whole
ship
thing.
dynamic. Adults and children, incest, abuse of power. These are all things that will say something about you if you passionately and consistently ship this kind of garbage. Going
uh, hold on a second. Hold on. Oh, God. Oh, no, hold on. Let's just go, side scribbles. Oh, Lily. Hold on, I'm looking for. The call is coming from inside the fucking house. She can say that these two characters are not siblings, but she didn't have. Nobody forced her. Nobody forced her to make them move in together when they were kids and start living and being a part of the same family. And as far as I know, she yada yadas over that whole them living together and just skips right to boning. Um, Also, enmeshment, by the way, is the sibling version of emotional incest. By the way, just so we're clear. So, who's doing something really consistently? Like, if you go back in time, all of her fucking fan fictions are about the same goddamn thing.
going to bat for Beauty and the Beast and yammering on about how he changed his ways, despite those changes being token at best, is ultimately just a means of protecting yourself from asking that uncomfortable question about why you keep defending this kind of...
Again, people take these sort of movies way too literally. It's not like you're not literally supposed to be like, man, I hope like what if I moved into like wouldn't it be hot if I like moved into like an old castle and like a beast man just fucked me up and got really mad at me? Like that's not what it's about. But she takes things so literally. I don't think Lily knows what a metaphor is.
abusive garbage. You are Belle, your nose in a book as you ignore the real world around you and form your opinions based on the trashy romance novels you read all day. And you don't abandon those ideas when you take your
Hello?
nose out of that book because you'll passionately defend people from the consequences of their own bad behavior on the basis of those trashy romance novel morals. The conversation...
That is a reading on Belle. It's a reading on Belle that you could make, I suppose, if you really wanted to. You can do what you turns out you can put whatever words you want to in whatever order you want to for free. Nobody's stopping you. But Jesus Christ.
killing question you will always hear from people when this discussion starts is, so am I a bad person for liking X ship despite its flaws? When someone asks that, they have ultimately revealed the real motivation for ignoring those elements in the first place. They have admitted to you that what they really care about is their own perception of themselves as a good person. Pointing out that these things are toxic has ultimately wounded their ego. And let's think about that seriously for a moment. For the people who might be inclined to ask that question, let's imagine that you watching this video right now are a hypothetical Raylo who is fully aware of the abuse and toxic behavior involved in this pairing, but you still ship it anyway. Here's my question. Why is none of that a deal breaker for you? We'll stay focused on Raylo for now because it's recent and still relevant, but you could expand this thought experiment to any toxic ship you might be interested in. How did you manage to get through all that garbage and still come out going, I ship it? Because that...
Listen, Lily, I like garbage. I don't like Raylo. It's not my flavor of garbage. But garbage tastes me. I like it because it's garbage. It scratches my brain. But anyway.
Is the elephant in the room, that none of these things mattered enough to you to act as a deterrent. Simply acknowledging that something is toxic isn't where the conversation ends,
but like,
because we ultimately shift...
Okay, so let's say there is a world that exists where I like Raylo. Blech. The thing that would act as deterrent for me is if it was hurting other people. Like actually hurting other people. And it's not, so it doesn't matter. Okay. This is a chick who acts like her Pokemon roleplay the real. Stop it. You can't say that.
to the
You
fact
can't
that you
say
don't care
that.
enough to act on that acknowledgement. And if you're so wrapped
No,
up
I
in this
don't,
idea of
because
yourself
it
as a
doesn't
good
matter.
person, that's a conversation that needs to be had.
I can excuse racism, but I draw the line at animal cruelty.
You can excuse racism.
Because you didn't care about this stuff enough for it to get in the way of having your creepy fun. I know I'm fetishizing abuse, but I don't care. And expecting people to go away on that admission alone. Your
Yeah, I
admission of
don't
the ship
care.
is toxic wasn't enough to get you to stop romanticizing abuse, and that's the part that actually matters. It's similar to how when the Toon Critic scandal came out, and many of the perpetrators' closest friends had their support for abuse victims and denouncement of pedophilia
And
come
jumping
to a
on Toon Critic,
screeching
of
halt
course.
once it meant actually inconveniencing themselves in some way. And these were all
See, but
people
this
who
is
liked...
different because Toon Critic's a real person that hurt real people. It's different. Ray and Kylo, or whatever the hell their names are, did not hurt real people because they don't exist. Because they're not real.
imagine themselves to be good people. But when the time came to actually act like one, they couldn't be bothered. Instead, they harassed people and threatened litigation. The lesson here is that these things do in fact say something about you, even if that thing is ultimately, I am a self-centered asshole who will not let hurting other people get in the way of my fun. Your interests, your likes and dislikes, how you act on those likes and dislikes, these are all things that say things about you. And if you truly are invested in being a good person, that means sometimes altering what you consume on that basis. And if you don't care about any of that, well, fine. There's not really much I can do there. But if what you want is the ability to consume problematic material and not only receive no personal criticism for it, but also to not have to see criticism of it in public because it makes you uncomfortable, well, you're not getting that. Nobody gets a consequence-free environment, especially not in public. Don't like that? Tough shit.
I find it really funny that the weird incest half Pokemon baby is the first piece of fan art after she says this. And I'm guessing this is also her and her Gardevoir, which again, they were raised as siblings. And yet they have romantic feelings for each other. Yeah. Well, that sure was something, wasn't it? So we're gonna go back. We're gonna go back and like again, I'm using these characters to illustrate a point. Ball, Riku, and Cloud. Can we all agree? Okay, I think where she gushes about her fan fiction for 20 minutes. My bad. Okay, that's probably. I didn't really want to listen to her gush about her fan fiction for 20 minutes. That seems awful. Okay, so can we all agree that though they're different qualities, these characters all look about the same? Can we all agree? We can agree with that, right? Like, despite having different hair colors, these guys are pretty much the same guy. Can we agree with that in the chat? Any yays or nays? Twinkie white boys. Okay. So if I said that I think that these that well okay I do also want to as an aside their whiteness is questionable. They're Japanese just with fun hair colors. But okay. So if I find Cloud pretty, what does that say about me? If I say I think Cloud is pretty, what does that say about me? That's not a rhetorical question. I want an answer. What does it say about me if I think this is a pretty guy? That you have eyes. Okay. What if I think Riku's pretty? That I could see. And Squall. They are all very pretty men. You are wrong. This is a man, a 21-year-old man. This is an 18-year-old man, young man, but 18-year-old. This is a boy. He is 17. Does so does that say something about me? Like what does that say about me to reveal that? It means you're evil and you want to touch polygons. Now, I'll be quite frank again, like I am like Arrow Ace and it's more of an aesthetic appreciation. I don't really want to bone Squall here. He's a beautiful, beautiful young man, but I don't really spend a lot of time thinking about Squall. That's not my point. Yeah, I know you're joking. I know you're joking. But like, you see what I'm getting at. Um, and maybe I keep rehashing this, but I think, and if I'm like, yeah, I kid you, jest you jape. I know. Also, gun blades. What the fuck, dude? What was going through your guys' head with the gun blades? Anyway, my point here is that like think critically about the media that you consume and why you like it. I do think that that is important. Um, and I do think it is important to think about what kind of message you're eh, eh, just for funsies. You know what? I'm gonna be clipped one day, taken into content. Oh, I don't know if I want to Google that. No, I don't want. Okay, I was gonna Google the coffin of Andy and Lele, but I'm not going to because I don't know what's gonna show up in the Google search. Because, well, I could. Okay, hold on. I will Google it in a different window, and then I will copy paste something safe. Sure. So I also really like this game. I like this game. Lily didn't really like this game, and this is kind. We're going on a bit of a different route here. Um, Now I'm sure people know that Andrew and Ashley are brother and sister, and that there is some incestual, like the green bunny is supposed to be Andrew and the pink bunny is supposed to be Ashley. So there's some vibes going on here that are uncomfortable. But this is a horror game. Um, Now, if I play The Coffin of Andrew and Lele purely because it is a horror game, um, is that okay? A lot of people that have watched me stream it seem to think so, yes. But what if I'm like, oh yeah, but it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun. It's a kind of fun pairing because they're so toxic, and you know, I find that kind of fun. Would that change the harm that I'm doing? What would it say about me? You know? What if I also told you, or people like, oh, well, maybe you touch your sister or something, which is makes me very uncomfortable to think about. What if I told you that me seeing characters that remind me of my sister or my mom, um, I cannot see those characters in a sexual manner because it grosses me out and like incest kind of bleh. Um, so if you know that about me, and then I'm like, but I do like Andrew and Ashley and their relationship dynamic, like the good and the bad, because that's what shipping means. It doesn't necessarily mean that you think it's the best thing ever and it's good and you want a relationship exactly like that. It just means you like the dynamic and you want more of it. And admittedly, I do because I like horror games and this is a horror game. Um, if those two things can exist, if you know both of those things about me, what does it say about me? Because I think what it says about me is that incest freaks me out, like real incest makes me uncomfortable, but I like fictional horror in a safe setting that doesn't make me think of my own family. I think that's what that says about me. That's just my own hypothesis, and I have the benefit of being myself and know why I like the things that I like. Um, so yeah, think learn to think critically, worry more about teaching yourself and practicing critical thinking than censorship, because no matter what you do and how much you try to live in a bubble where you only consume non-problematic media, you will eventually stumble across something that you will need to think critically about. And that might be far right propaganda. It could be brainwashing material. It could be something that's normalizing something that should not be normalized. It could be a news piece or a hit piece on a trans creator that's inaccurate. It could be a predator telling you that actually that person abused me, not the other way around. And you're going to have to think critically about all of these things in order to function as a human being. And I think I'm going to leave. I've been streaming for almost 3 hours, so I think I'm going to leave it at that. I think I've kind of made my point here. I had some other videos I was thinking about looking at, but again, like Lily retrades the same ground, so I'm going to leave it here. I think I've made my point. Think critically. Probably the most important thing you can do as a consumer of fiction. Um, bye bye. Have a nice day. Like and subscribe or whatever. The VOD for this will be up on my YouTube momentarily. It will be public. My gaming streams are not publicly listed, but if you go to my playlist, you will see a playlist called Gaming VODs, and it's a public playlist and it contains the unlisted gaming VODs because I don't want to clog up my videography with just a bunch of gaming streams that aren't really related to the videos that I want to make as a sort of creative exercise. But yeah, I'll be streaming again tomorrow and it'll be video games. Bye bye.